Hey, my friends, it's Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast, and this is already a short podcast, but this is going to be an extra short one because I just want to make one simple point here. We looked at this passage yesterday where Jesus demonstrates incredible wit in the moment. The smarmy religious leaders are sneaking up to him. They're super happy that he's back in the temple teaching, and they put their character on display, and he puts his character on display. And I just want to contrast these two characters that are on display. So I want to read the text again. We're just going to look at a couple of things that stood out to me that we didn't get to yesterday. Verse 23, Jesus entered the temple courts, and while he was teaching, the chief priests and the elders of the people came to him. "By what authority are you doing these things?" they asked, "and who gave you this authority?" Jesus replied, "I will also ask you one question. If you answer me, I'll tell you by what authority I'm doing these things. John's baptism. Where did it come from? Was it from heaven or from men?" Oh, they discussed it among themselves and said, "If we say from heaven, he'll ask, then why didn't you believe him? But if we say from men, we're afraid of the people, for they all hold that John was a prophet." So they answered Jesus, "We don't know." Then he said, "All right, neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things." The only paraphrase in there was the word "all right." I guess I added that one. I probably shouldn't mess with the Bible. My bad. Look at this right from the beginning. They've been scheming and lurking, not just for one page or one paragraph, but all the way back to like here. You can't quite see it because it's an audio format, but like here is where the scheming started. End of Matthew chapter 7, implicitly, this is where I would pinpoint. Everybody listens to Jesus teach in the Sermon on the Mount, and he teaches with authority, and the teachers of the law don't. And the crowds can see it for the first time. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching because he taught as one who had authority and not as their teachers of the law. And all of a sudden, this racket that they've been running, this very profitable deal that they've got working out for them in terms of power and money and reputation and prestige and opportunity, it is shaken because the only thing that actually makes that go is the ongoing belief amongst the masses that they need this religious leadership, that these people in authority are somehow their friends who are looking out for them and going to bat for them, and without them, well, the whole thing would fall apart. Sure, we might not like every single thing that they do, but without them, how could we have the things that we so deeply need and so deeply love? Is it a problematic system? Sure. It's not perfect, but nothing is perfect. And all of a sudden, they see something that maybe is perfect, and they're like, wait, just a dang minute. That right there sounded pretty good. That was interesting. That felt like it was coming from a higher authority than dirty, smarmy politics, and we liked it. And that sets us on this collision course. Jesus keeps saying things that are authoritative, that are spoken as though he was actually around from the beginning of time, and as though he's like, I don't know, God in the flesh, and actually has the authority to say these things and to make proclamations about what the Old Testament means and where things are going next. And the religious leaders don't do that. They can sit around and muse and pontificate, and then when that doesn't work, they can leverage power to get their way on different things amongst their various religious parties. But it's a completely different world. Imagine if somebody came along right now who just did things in a way that was completely transcendent, out of the muck and the mud and the yuck, and all of the categories were different and all of the tone was different, then everything felt other from the stupid, unending, ongoing social squabbles that we have, that we got to muddle through and suffer through all the time right now. It's exhausting. It's exasperating. What if something truly refreshing came along to the degree that it came along here? Well, you can imagine that all the rats are going to start scrambling real quick. They would be like, what? Our power is being challenged? Our racket is being exposed? Do you think they would look deep inside themselves and be like, maybe we should stop abusing people and behaving in ways that are absolutely criminally immoral in any other context, but we can get away with it because of positions of authority and privilege that we wield? Like, no, they're not going to look deep inside their hearts and be like, maybe we should stop with that. They're going to scramble to protect their power, and they're going to give in to their ugliest, grossest impulses. And that's what we see happening throughout the book of Matthew. So by the time we get to chapter 21, we shouldn't be surprised at all that these guys spent the night after an embarrassing encounter with Jesus the day before, trying to think of a new way to get him to incriminate himself by saying something that they can then point at and say, that's blasphemy. We asked you an honest question. You gave us an honest answer. Blasphemy. That's the game. So right off the bat, they're not engaging in any kind of forthright upstanding communication here, some sort of exchange of ideas where they're really wanting to get down to the truth so they can just understand how things are, so they too can be submitted to the truth, any more than Herod wanted to know where the baby was so that he too could go and worship him. That's adorable. No, they're playing a game and we all recognize the game because we've all had this game played against us. We've all watched this game play out in front of us in the ether of our moment in history, and probably because we've also all played the game a little bit against other people. So they come with a trap question: by what authority do you do these things? And who gave you this authority? Well, that's going to make some of the people cheer and get really excited, but Jesus replies with forthrightness. He comes back with, oh, you're interested in truth? Well, great. Well, let's do the truth thing then. Here's a question that will help us get closer to that. And we'll know we're getting closer to the truth because this should lay bare the motives that you bring to the conversation, and it should lay bare the motives that I bring to the conversation in front of everybody here who can look at it and make of it what they will. Jesus asks his question. These guys go into their little conclave and start debating how they're going to answer. And do you notice what doesn't come up in any way in their discussion? Truth. What doesn't come up is the reality of how the things are. They have so spiraled in their endless pursuit of that ring of power, that thing that once you've had it on your finger once, you just cannot bear to let that precious slip out of your pocket or into the possession of someone else. They'll do anything. Like, truth is theoretically their entire business. It's their calling card. It's their reason for existence. And they don't freaking care. That part of their soul is dead. The only language they speak is power. So they cook up whatever version of truth is going to work best. And in this case, it's nothing. And it exposes all the more that this is the logical end of religious lying. This is the logical end of power mongering. You reach this point of paralysis or violence, and those are your only two options. In this situation, they know they're going to lose if they give any kind of answer other than, you got us, we don't know. But even that is a lie. They know exactly where it's coming from. Do you remember these anecdotes earlier in Matthew? Like the stuff about the paralytic that got lowered through the ceiling. You remember that guy? And it's so crowded up with people who are in the room listening to Jesus talk. And you remember who was there, right? It was everybody. It was the disciples. It was the squishy, indecisive middle. And it was the religious leaders. They're all there. Jesus heals the guy. Everyone is amazed. We see that language all over the Gospels. Everybody was amazed because this stuff happened in public. It happened in front of everybody. And the result is that there's no argument about the tangible details of what went on. I found the verse, Matthew 9:8. When the crowd saw this is the healing of the paralytic, they were filled with awe and they praised God who had given such authority to men. Everybody saw. There was no debate to be had. These guys who are pestering Jesus and trying to trap him know exactly what the answer to the question they asked Jesus is. It's from God. They just don't want that to be the answer. And probably they have even less confusion and more clarity on the answer to the question of where did this stuff come from with John the Baptist? Because all those teachings that John said out there in the wilderness, they didn't refute them. They rolled right along with that. And again, we're more than happy to collect the resources that came with the religious uptick and resurgence and enthusiasm for the temple and for God that came from the work of John the Baptist. My guess is they were probably sad when John the Baptist got put to death by Herod because it was terrible for their business. Maybe some of these guys still had a degree of soul and they were sad that John the Baptist got put to death because they were sad that John the Baptist got put to death. I believe that could be the case, and we can give some benefit of the doubt there, but their actions speak very, very loudly by the time we get to the latter portions of the book of Matthew. And the game that they're playing here and their disregard for truth is fully on display. Jesus, on the other hand, is all in on the truth thing, and when he sees that they're not of goodwill and that there is no fruit to the conversation, he just excuses himself. Now think about what this is like for people in the original audience. They're in the room, they watch it happen, or they hear the account, the eyewitness accounts of people who were in the room reading it a few years later. They get to pick between these two things. In some ways, then, it's a choice between comfortable lies or initially uncomfortable truth. It's not just do I follow Jesus or do I follow these things? It's, do I see the dishonesty that's going on, but does it feel better to me to disregard that dishonesty and internalize it and just continue to play along because this is the only reality that I know and anything else is freaky and scary and I don't know how that's going to turn out? Or do I take the big chance and bend the knee to this one who is irrefutably, inarguably compelling? Maybe that dilemma sounds incredibly easy from where you sit at this moment in life. Maybe that dilemma sounds incredibly hard for where you sit at this moment in life. Maybe you relate more to the religious leaders here. Maybe you relate more to Jesus here. But this is why we're going through the entire book of Matthew, so that instead of tiny little excerpts where we get this little impression or that little impression, we can look at the unfolding of this story and the characters therein and the question that comes with the book of Matthew with eyes wide open, try to take it all in at once, hold it all in our minds at once as we decide what it is exactly that we're going to do with it. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.